That's a good question. What happens if you have got people around you, either living in the environment or other people around you that you have to come into the environment, or not even the environment, because we know how frequencies work. And if they're on a lower frequency could just be that they just are unaware of, let me see, their brain up a bit more, they're changing it. I would say lower frequency in the sense if they have depression. We know people with schizophrenia have this as well. This might sound controversial, I can't even say the word. Lower frequencies is tricky to some degree because they have been saying that it's important to self-care, to take yourself away from an environment, but if you're in the environment, it's very tricky because it's very much like, I think they just said this, it's very much if you think of the speakers and the speakers amplifying the music, the tune, the song, whatever it is, and whatever the song is playing, you're picking up on it, okay? And especially if you're an empath, you're sensitive, you're going to pick up, and even if you don't realize that you are an empath or you're sensitive, you're going to pick up on those signals, those radio waves, those frequencies that are coming out to you. So whether you can hear it like a radio station or whatever, or a song or whatever it is, whether you can hear it physically with your ears, just like music, it sends out that frequency. So the vibrations, if you put a speaker on the surface, you're going to feel the vibration. It's very the same as if you're living in an environment and you've got someone else around you how they're feeling. And also people, this is true as well. Also, if someone's having negative thoughts about you, if you know friends who are unhappy, that can happen too. Loved ones, if they're unhappy, the frequency. I will answer that question, but they're also sort of saying if you sleep in the same bed as somebody, if their frequency is very different from your own, when you go into sleep, deep sleep, what happens is it's very much like even having an alcoholic drink or whatever, or drugs or whatever it is. When you go into sleep, you sort of then, there's part of you that sort of tends to, with the layers of your actual human self, your aura, you tend to sort of kind of leave that physical plane for a while, and then almost like you can just go off. Now, if you have someone who's having nightmares, this happened to me, that if you sleep with somebody who's thinking other thoughts, you can pick up on their thoughts too. That's what actually physically did happen to me. I was picking up on their images and thoughts of what they was thinking, and so being in that environment where someone's thinking totally different from you, or how they feel, I don't say good or bad, but if they're feeling in a total different way from you and you pick it up, it can affect you. They're just saying this, they can affect you from ill health, your physical self, emotional self, can make you feel depressed, can make you feel irritated, can cause, they just said this, skin conditions they're talking about. So they're talking about skin conditions, so that might be eczema, rashes, this is what they're just saying, some irritation. That can be also about shifting people out of your life, that's what they're trying to say. Also changing skin, they're sort of saying, so that's you changing as well physically. So I'm checking in with them what they advise in that situation. Okay. There is that maintenance that you can do, of the sense of if they have to stay in the same household of yours, it's about the maintenance of your soul and yourself. So it's about, where are you leaking the energy from yourself, your soul? Where is it coming out? What part of your body is being mostly affected by that individual? And then you need to sort of imagine physically putting on like a shield of protection. That's what I'm hearing clearly. So I've done this before with individuals where I tell people to bubble up like golden egg, and to sort of place yourself into this golden egg, so that the energy field from others is that you're protected, so that they can't infiltrate that through that golden egg. It's not porous at all, so that the energy from them of how they think and see things bounces off the hard shell, so that you don't then have it penetrate into your porous body that you have. You have to keep regularly taking those salt baths as well, because that will really cleanse your body, detoxifying And they're saying also by drinking plenty of fluids, the water will help you too as well. And also to be aware of your space around you. So many have the crystals. Crystals are really important. They're not just they look pretty, but they give off a vibrational sense also. And it's about being aware of that, having those crystals around you, which they then can draw out the toxins, that you can have that as well. You'd bring that into your energy space. So the right crystals around you will provide you with the protection as well. You can also look at from the point of view of a lot of times whenever we enter into relationships or friendships, sometimes there's like an energetic hook. So you know, there are those times when, you know, if you think, look, we don't question the phones when we're using a telephone or a mobile phone. We don't question they don't have a cable, you know, mobile in our hand, and yet when we ring a person, that it goes off. There's those magnetic waves. They go out and they attach themselves to a satellite dish. You know, I'm not the expert in that sense, and then they bounce back, and then you hear the individual, and it happens so quick like that. And it's the same as thoughts from other human beings. If another human being is having a thought about you, that is also going to affect you. You're going to pick up a bit like the mobile phone. You know, as I just said, you know, with our mobile phone, we'll dial a number in, or we'll just call, hey Siri, call, and it calls the whatever number you need. And it's very much like with individuals, that you just think of a person, or you're thinking of them, and it might be ill thoughts or in a loving way, whatever that way is, you're going to connect them straight away. Now, there has been some individuals that have been in love relationships where they found it hard to pull away from an individual, and there's like an energetic hook that attaches itself to the individual, like a cable, like you would have with the old phones. But it's really about with living in an environment where you can't change the environment, and you're in that environment and you have somebody that's of a lower frequency. All you can do is keep checking in on your own maintenance of how you take care of yourself. It has to be down to them as an individual whether they wish to change or actually have any idea of what's happening with their energy and what they're sending out to the others. You cannot change somebody else, you can only change yourself. But by changing yourself, again, you're going to transmit, you're going to send out that wave of energy, that you're making those changes, that things are changing, that you'll have a higher frequency, and that will affect their frequency as well. And it should then help them to start coming to some realization that things need to change for them. But you really have to look at that individual that you're bouncing off of what's going on with them. But if they're on a very low frequency and they could be bringing in energies as well, you have to look at that. So some people can live with individuals that are on such a low frequency, it's almost as if they bring in negative energy. So I know for myself, when I was a teenager, I was going through a bit of a rough patch. We lived in this flat. I was very unhappy. We had to move from a very large house, garden, horses and everything, to a very small flat. And for me, there was no outdoor space. I couldn't connect with outside stuff, and that really affected me. So I needed nature around me. So for me, my energy switched. We actually had poltergeists in our flats, and pictures would fly off the wall, and they wouldn't just drop off the wall, they would actually fly across one side of the room to the other side of the room. It literally had to be that I needed to go and get some help, some assistance, and because I was negative energy, I was drawing in any negative energy that was around me. We later found out that where the flats were built, there was actually a camp at that time during the war, and there was some ill treatment, and there was all this negative energy on the land. Then these flats were built upon the land, and then the whole building was sort of vibrating this negative energy. Now, before I felt very low in how I was feeling and very I'd say I had depression at the time, then it was okay living there. We'd lived there a whole year and nothing had happened, but because the stuff was going on at home, I was so sad that I ended up attracting some negativity into where we were living. And there's been documented evidence as well where, you know, teenagers, especially teenagers and young children, it's their energy of the anger they may be feeling boiling up inside them. You can actually attract that energy because it's energy's like for like, it's like a magnet, and like static, it brings it closer. So if you're living in the environment, all you can do is look at your individual own energy, see if you can change and see what's going on for your own physical self. And by you having your physical maintenance of who you are and where you are in yourself, should try to help. It would help sort of radiate out to that individual that you might have around you. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. I hope that answers that question as much as I can, but it's down to the individual. If the individual is going to be there in that environment and doesn't change, then it's unlikely and it'll be difficult for you to make great changes. They have to have that change. You can ask the light to come in, you can pray for them, set the intention for them. There are a few other things that you can do, but you really need to get someone in who's worked with individuals in that way before. Okay.